I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Right. Tonight is our reorganization of the school committee. So per policy B today, the superintendent will call the annual organizational meeting to order, and then we will have the election of the new chair, who will then preside over the remainder of the meeting. And then roll call votes are taken for chair, vice chair, assistant treasurer, and secretary. So right now, I'll entertain a motion to nominate the chairperson.
I nominate Jim Forkey as chairperson.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, roll call.
Eric Brown, aye.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Yeah. Aye.
Mary Weston, aye. And congratulations, now you get fancy, yep. Fancy is sign that, you just hand that over.
Yeah, you get the chairperson.
Hand it over to you.
I'll entertain a motion to nominate the vice chairperson.
I nominate with great fanfare the vice chairperson to be Eric Brown.
Is there a second?
Second.
Alright. A roll call vote.
Eric Brown, aye.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Jim Forkey, aye.
Matt Hagan, aye.
Mary Weston, aye.
And is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
I motion to approve tonight's agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting, May 12th?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll entertain a motion to nominate the secretary.
I'd like to nominate Vicki Ludwigson, secretary.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Eric Brown, aye.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Jim Forkey, aye.
Hagan, aye.
Mary Weston, aye.
And the assistant treasurer, is there a motion to nominate assistant treasurer?
I nominate Sean Nicholson as assistant treasurer.
Is there a second? Second. Roll call vote.
Eric Brown, aye.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Jim Forkey, aye.
Matt Hagan, aye.
Mary Weston, aye.
Additional appointments, TAP library trustee.
I'll make a motion to nominate Sean as the TAP library trustee.
Is there? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Christine Fund. Is there a motion to nominate someone for the Christine Fund, right?
I nominate Matt Hagan to be the Steam Fund representative.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Treasurer.
I'll also nominate Joe Lakeview as treasurer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And clerk, the school committee.
Make a motion to nominate Alyssa Lacasse.
And second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, subcommittee appointments. These are appointed by the chair and then announced, voted by the committee members. For budget subcommittee, we have Sean Nicholson, Eric Brown, and myself. Policy subcommittee, have Carrie, Vicki, and Matt. Negotiations, we have Carrie, Vicki, and Eric. For superintendent evaluation, we have Matt, Carrie, and Vicki. For capital planning, we have Matt, Eric, and myself. Golden Apple, the ad hoc. Is there a motion to approve the subcommittee assignments?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is the conclusion of reorganization. We can move on to school committee chairperson comments. I'd like to congratulate all of the seniors graduating from Nipmuc Regional class of 2025 on Friday. I saw pictures. Fantastic. Community comments. We ask that people state their names and their address and keep it to 3 minutes or less. Is there anybody in the room for community comments? Sam, anyone online?
See, no hands raised.
Sam. Student comments. I'll hand it off to Sean.
All right, so I only have two things today. It's a little bit short. So first is the junior year internship. So the junior year internship program started last Monday, where 40 juniors went all across a few towns to intern for 3 weeks. It's from the Milford Courthouse to Clark University. I'm personally interning at the Mendon Town Hall to work on various projects to learn more about municipal government. And so the showcase is going to be held on next Friday, June 13th from 10:15 to 11:15 in the morning. And then next is Inspired Learning Day. We have Inspired Learning Day this Friday, which I won't be there for, but sure it'll be fun. There's a lot of different activities like beach reading at Kiwanis Beach, career exploration, girls and golf at Shining Rock, a bunch of different fun activities. So
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
New business, we have Golden Apple Award recognition, so I'll hand it off to Matt.
Yeah, so I guess I'd like to start by thanking the Mendon-Upton community for their participation in the Golden Apple process this year. We had more than 50 separate nominations to sort through. As always, we had a great time reading about all the positive experiences that our students had with their teachers and staff into our school. We're lucky as a district to have so many caring and dedicated educators. As always, it was hard to narrow the list down. So before we get to tonight's honorees, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to all the staff in our district. The ones who make our schools great. We appreciate your But without further ado, our first Golden Apple recipient this year serves Debbie Coyle. Debbie is a shining light in the Mendon-Upton School District, nominated for profound impact as an English language learner teacher. Our nominators consistently highlight that Debbie's work extends far beyond the traditional school education curriculum and instruction. She's praised for her flexibility, deep compassion, and her ability to hold students to high standards while providing them with the tools essential for success. As one nominator put it, she will never ask for recognition, which makes it simple at all. Debbie is celebrated for her exceptional support of students and their families who are in this country and to the English language. She not only helps them master English, but also expertly guides them in navigating life in a new community. Beyond her direct work with students, Debbie actively fosters a more inclusive environment by educating others in the schools about students' own languages and cultures. Her dedication to her colleagues is noteworthy as she shares resources and best practices for teaching English learners, making those around her better teachers. Her advocacy for students is strong, and her commitment to parent communication and building robust family relationships ensures that all students feel safe and comfortable at school. She's gone above and beyond for years for families, even helping students access extracurricular activities like soccer by translating registration information. And finally, Debbie's navigating current events further demonstrates her commitments to ensuring the safety and civil rights of our students and their families. Debbie works tirelessly to establish a culture of acceptance and inclusivity, providing access to curriculum, pre-teaching, review, hands-on learning, and always tailoring her approach to each student's needs. Her work ethic and positive attitude are consistently lauded. So it was with immense gratitude and admiration to present the Golden Apple.
Good picture here. Nice, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, school committee. I'm so honored to get this award, and I'm so fortunate to work in a district that supports all of our students. And I love working with the students I work with, their parents, my awesome teammates, and the rest of the staff. So thank you again.
For our next Golden Apple recipient, Erin Welch is an exceptional special educator at Club. Erin is consistently praised for her extraordinary dedication and the strong partnerships she builds with families. Nominators highlighted how Erin, often in collaboration with her colleague, Mr. Santa, goes above and beyond to keep parents updated on goals and progress through regular virtual meetings. This collaborative approach has directly let students thrive. Parents' profound care for each child shines through in her work. She respects her students, thoughtfully pushes them to grow, and enthusiastically celebrates their successes with their families. Many noted that she doesn't just support students within the school walls, but extends her partnership by brainstorming activities and ways for parents to support their children. She truly takes a strength-based approach, leveraging students' unique abilities to foster their social and academic. One parent beautifully articulated how Mrs. Welch gone above and beyond for our daughter time and time again. She has a remarkable ability to explain concepts in a way that resonates with her students, incorporating their interests and making learning enjoyable. Her commitment extends to supporting students through personal challenges such as anxiety, even sending thoughtful check-in emails the night before school to offer assistance. Her genuine love for her students is evident daily, as shared by a parent whose daughter's enthusiasm for school and for Mrs. Welch speaks volumes. It's clear that Erin Welch's dedication, compassion, and unwavering commitment to her students and families make her a deserving recipient.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, you guys are good. I'm not much for public speaking. Put me in a room full of kids and I do fine, but put me in a room full of adults and on TV, nonetheless, I don't do as well. But thank you to the school committee and to the parents and for Dr. Cohen and Dr. Kirkpatrick. And I truly love what I do every single day. Even on the stressful days, it brings me so much joy. So thank you.
So our final Golden Apple recipient this year is the extraordinary music teacher from Misco, Michael Webb. Mr. Weber is truly an inspiring force in the Misco Hill community, consistently praised for his outstanding work with the band program. Nominators highlight how he does a fantastic job developing the band members, and definitely goes above and beyond the effort for the jazz band and all the concerts. His dedication has made him popular among the students, with one nominator claiming him their favorite teacher throughout their time. Mr. Weber's ability to recognize strong traits, connect with, and bring out the best in the band members is remarkable. He has a talent for encouraging students to pursue their musical passions, even convincing them to take extra lessons. His dedication extends beyond the classroom, with parents commending his clear communication regarding concerts, extra practice times, and band activities. His profound influence is deeply felt by his students and their families. Both children of one nominator are not only in band, but also look forward to their music education experience because of his dedication and passion. Mr. Weber fosters true appreciation for music that goes beyond just playing instruments, inspiring students to continue their musical journeys into high school. Beyond musical instruction as a treatment, one particularly touching nomination showed how he created a safe space for students struggling with anxiety to audition for the jazz band, instilling confidence in crucial life skills. He shows up at 7 a.m. to greet students and to jam and play music, and that's just one example of his commitment that goes beyond the college. His efforts in concerts, like competitions, and summer jazz camp provide invaluable experiences for students and enrich their community. He nurtures and supports each student's individual interest level, whether they play flute, trumpet, or sax. He even encouraged one student to learn a second instrument, lending a school instrument off on his own time to teach her, purely out of dedication. His willingness to allow students to use free time to experiment with new instruments further exemplifies his community support celebration. Through his infectious enthusiasm and deep knowledge, Mr. Weber motivates and guides students without being preparing. He's admired for his outside of school musical endeavors and constantly promotes broader musical expression. Mr. Weber is undoubtedly a tremendous asset to the music community of Misco Hill, and I'm proud to present him with tonight's third Golden Apple.
Thank you, everyone. I didn't really prepare much to say, but we have great kids in this district. I have a great team that I get to work with every single day. So it's an honor to be nominated. It's an honor to be recognized, and it's really fun to do every single day. So thanks so much.
All right, And I'll just say thanks to the three of you on behalf of the school committee. Congratulations, but truly thank you for making the district as great as it can be. Moving on, we now have the superintendent and administrator reports.
Thank you. And I'll just keep personally telling you how amazing you are when I come and see you, but this is the time that you can, with your family, stay for the exciting presentations we have, and they are exciting. Or, you can head out to, if you want. Up to you, and go celebrate and have a nice dinner. But I'm gonna invite Dr. Kirkpatrick up, and Debbie Coyle again, and Kim Lopes and Beth Meyer. And we're gonna be hearing overview, end of year report related to English language program.
Perfect. Thank you. And as we're getting set up, we just bring another chair over. I'm literally going to toss it right over to this dream team of educators here. But before I do, can I just say how amazingly, incredibly fitting it is that we get to present on the day that Debbie gets the golden apple with recent access scores that are awesome. So everything about this moment just feels right. And so we're thrilled to be here today. Why don't we bring another chair, a couple of chairs up? Well, Sam will present it here, and I can put it on my laptop so you guys can see it. You won't even have to, you can just does that make sense?
Perfect.
Where do you want me?
You want chair?
Wherever you want. No, I just want to make sure I'm there if you need my computer,
Your apple gives you some authority,
right?
That's not right. I know.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so we are going to give you an update on the English language education program. So I'm going to start with our mission. We are committed to providing equitable, inclusive, and high-quality learning experiences for multilingual learners. We support the development of English proficiency across academic and social and cultural settings. Thank you. Empowering students to be confident learners, communicators, and community members. I'm going to introduce the team. I'm Debbie Coyle. I am the EL teacher from Memorial. This is Kim Lopes. She is the EL teacher from Club. And our newest member is Beth Meyer. She is the EL teacher at both Misco Hill and Nipmuc Regional. And Dr. Kirkpatrick is our EL director. So today we're going to be talking about student demographics and population, our student growth on access testing. We're going to talk about the targeted and focused monitoring that we just underwent, which also includes the curriculum review, the interpreter review and training, and staffing capacity issues. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Beth now, who's going to talk about demographics and population.
Great. I'm going to talk a little bit about the demographics and population of our English learners and our multilingual learners in our district. So before we discuss that, we need to understand who is an English learner. So an English learner is defined as a student who has not yet acquired academic English or who is currently not able to perform ordinary classwork in English. So how do we determine that? When a student enrolls in the district, if they have another language other than English spoken at home, they are administered a state-approved diagnostic. Depending on their score, if they are considered proficient in English, then they are not an English learner. But if they are considered an English learner, they receive services and are classified as an English learner until they meet exit criteria on the access test. And we will talk about access testing a little bit later. So now talking about our EL population over time, as you can see, there is an upward trend going from 2019 until today. Although this year we have a slight decline, you can see that from 2019, our population has nearly doubled. So, excuse me, along with this growth, we are seeing students with more complex needs and who require more services. For example, at the end of last school year, we had our first 2 SLIFE students enroll at Nipmuc. SLIFE is students with limited or interrupted formal education, SLIFE. So these are students with very complex needs, and they need significant support to access grade level content and build their foundational skills. Yeah, yes. So if we broaden that a little bit, the red line is students from multilingual families. These are students whose first language is not English. And in fact, in our district, we have 15 different languages represented in our families. And these families may need other services, even if they are not English learners themselves, they may need translation, interpretation, or related services. All right, so now I'm going to pass it over to Kim Lopes, who's going to talk about our access test.
Okay, so the access test is our annual statewide assessment. It's used to measure English proficiency. Students participate in the access test every January, and results are reported to districts in May of the same year. So we are actually able to report on this year's data as well, and we have some from last year too. So we want to mention that DESE assigns an annual progress target for each student who takes access. The target is based on their number of years in the program and their current level of proficiency, with the goal of kids reaching full proficiency within 6 years. So DESE kind of works within that 6-year time frame, figuring out where you should be when you take the access test. We create an English learner success plan for any student who doesn't meet this progress target. And it is an individualized plan focused on strategies tailored to each student's needs that help them continue to develop their English proficiency and meet their academic goals. This graph, oh, sorry, you need to be informed. This graph, so excited over there. This graph compares our progress in 2024 and 2025 to the state averages in 2024. The state data isn't released until the fall. So we'll have that in the fall. As you can see, across all of our schools in the district, our students have exceeded the state in meeting their progress targets. At Memorial and Clough, 84 and 85% of students met their targets in 2024 and 2025, compared to the state average of 54%. At Misco, we saw a nice jump from 37 to 60% of students meeting their progress targets, and as compared to 27% at the state. And at Nipmuc, we saw this year 50% of our students reached their target benchmarks, while the state averaged at 17%. We want to add a little context to this. We think it's important to note that in grades 1 to 4, there are 2 EL teachers, one at each elementary school full-time. And at Misco and Nipmuc in grades 5 to 8 and 9 to 12, we have one teacher who splits her time between those 2 buildings. And that means that this impacts how often we're able to service students and provide support to staff in those buildings. The state progress target also, like I said, it assumes that a student is going to reach proficiency within 6 years. But we know that kids don't fit into like tidy little boxes, and not every student is going to follow a typical path. We also have many L's with some complex needs that require individualized attention. So what we do is we also like to track their individual proficiency. We want to see that kids are increasing their proficiency each year, even if they're not meeting their target. And we were really, really pleased. 80 to 100% of our students increased their proficiency this year. We are really proud of their growth and their determination. This is a really hard, long test. And we think that their success truly reflects the strong and consistent support that are provided by our staff.
So can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So when you see the numbers are decreasing for proficiency as the children grow older, is that because there's more children entering in at those ages, or is it because the requirements are more?
This is a really good question. It's complicated. So it has a little to do with just child development. Younger children tend to attain proficiency faster than for children. Also, our kids at the 5 to 8 and 9 to 12 level, we have a pretty high number of those students are on IEPs or education plans, have other needs besides just being an English learner. And like I said, it's hard to exit in the neat little 6 years when you've got other stuff going on too. So progress is a bit slower when you're older.
What's the percentage on IEPs?
At the middle school right now, 6 out of our 17,
Oh, wow.
18 students are on IEPs.
Okay.
At Nipmuc, it's 1 out of 11 or 12. I think we're 1 out of 12.
And at Nipmuc, we also have a lot of kids who are newcomer beginner learners. In your first year, you don't get a progress target. You get it in your second time taking access. But we were kind of talking about earlier that we can screen a student at a level 1, and then their first access test, they might get a level 3. And then their progress kind of plateaus because they had a really big jump, but now they have to kind of catch up in other areas. So it's complicated, is my best answer.
And I'll just add in 2 things that I think Kim really remarked on. First, the state averages show the same decline, right?
Yes.
And that is probably one of the things indicative in some ways of how much students access actually services too as they get older.
Mm-hmm.
There's attendance issues and responsibilities for older students that kind of are associated with this population. Additionally, as we know from MCAS and everything else, growth isn't linear for these kids. It's curved. And so, adjusting for that curve is something that we don't really do very well in education in terms of our standardized tests. But what we always want to do is compare it to a meaningful comparison. And for us, we think that the state average is meaningful.
Yeah, so to somebody like myself, I don't know anything about this at all.
Right.
It seems counterintuitive, but I understand that it's probably not.
Yeah, it is a lot harder for you to gain proficiency as a high schooler. I mean, most of our high schoolers have really complicated lives. Way different responsibilities than your average Nipmuc student. And they come to us with trauma and, like I said, needs. These things can slow your progress. It takes time.
Is there something you could point to, like a curriculum change or approach change that might be the cause for the significant increase from 2024 to 2025, particularly at the middle school and high school?
Well, I'm an elementary teacher and I was at the middle school and high school last 2 years, so maybe that's it. Probably not, but maybe. Never mind, I didn't say that.
I think one of the things that you brought up while
Yeah.
we're in the other room is impactful here. We're looking at averages that are averages for a very small number of students
Yeah.
at the middle school and the high school. So when you talk about cohort differences, having a small cohort can really impact a difference year to year. And we're presenting this because, again, we think it's meaningful in comparison with the state, not because we'd ever kind of generalize a trend from 2 years.
And cohort, sorry, but the cohort is, it's, 3 of the 4 grades in, the high school and middle school samples are in the same cohort in both of those samples. Like, it's not really a cohort difference when there's so much overlap between cohorts.
Although part of it also is that, especially at the high school, our population is pretty transient. So
It is.
the roster that I have this year is entirely
changed so
different
much.
than the roster that Kim had last year.
That's a really good point. It's like MCAS, you're kind of comparing like one group of kids from year to year. Our population changes so much every year.
It truly is.
I started out with 12 students at Clough this year and I now have 24 and they've gone in and out. Like some out, some in. So, 30% and 17% of progress with a really different group of kids too. It's complicated. So
Ready to keep going?
Yeah, we're ready now. So Debbie is going to talk to you a bit about our targeted and focused monitoring process that we just went through with the state.
So target and focused monitoring, or TFM as we like to call it for short, is the statewide monitoring that occurs every 6 years. You guys probably know this tier focused monitoring for IEP process, but for us specifically for ELs, it's targeted and focused. All right. So it occurs every 6 years, and it's a comprehensive review of our ELD programming. All right. So during the phase, they review the curriculum alignment to standards, student academic outcomes, program staffing and services, if we have a sound educational theory when we work with our EL students, family engagement and outreach, just to name a few things. It makes you very comprehensive. All right, so the process started in January of 2024. We were notified by DESE's Office of Language Acquisition that our monitoring year would be this year coming up. So between February of 2024 and September, we uploaded all the initial documents and then additional documents in September. In February, the survey and focus groups occurred. So surveys were sent to all EL families. DESE conducted interviews with our content teachers, EL teachers, and administrators via Zoom. And they also held a parent focus group via Zoom to discuss, I guess, the program features with parents and get input from them. In early March, we received the TFM draft findings, and we had to upload additional information to address the draft findings in the areas of curriculum, staffing, SEI endorsements, and just update a couple of documents that we need to work on. Finally, in March, we received the TFM final report, and I'm really excited to say that we met the state criteria in all areas except ELE 5. And ELE 5 is around program and services, specifically around staffing, and we'll talk more about that on the next slide or so. All right, so ongoing, our next steps, Dr. Kirkpatrick had to create and submit a continuous improvement and monitoring plan to the state and continue to provide them with updates. And she's going to, oh, sorry, it's not me, she.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, so I just wanted to highlight this. I figured it was a natural point to say, so what did they find? And they actually were super, super complimentary about the program, the services, and I think especially these folks right here. First, they said that the families through the focus group and the surveys were really appreciative and felt supported and welcomed in the community. And they said also that, oh, and one of the things that Debbie will share is like one of the ways that we think we really strive to do that. The staff appreciated PD. So they talked to a whole bunch of staff members across the district. They appreciated the PD that they had received for SEI endorsement, for book studies to help them get PDPs that they need for relicensure. And this group actually put together workshops that they offered twice to folks at the beginning of the year. And they were some of our most highly subscribed PD workshops that we had all year. For curriculum, they said that actually our curriculum was really good. It's just that our curriculum was older than the current WIDA standards. And so this group will share how they kind of made some tweaks to make sure that our curriculum was up to date. And they mentioned as before that there were some staffing capacity needs that we needed to examine. And so I'll share the corrective action with you at the end.
All right, so as I mentioned, we need to do some work around our interpreter training. Okay. So DESE released a document basically saying that we're now required to use trained interpreters for all parent communications. And they gave us this beautiful graphic here. And you can see that there's 3 tiers of training. It depends on the type of language interpretation needed by the family. Okay, so if you look at tier 1, that's our biggest tier. That one is really around social language. So interpreters that are trained at tier 1 are able to interpret things like PTO meetings or a quick phone call home, your child is sick, we need to have you pick up your child, that sort of thing. So that's called the language ambassador training. Tier 2 is for curriculum and parent conferences. So these interpreters are able to attend open houses with our families because curriculum is discussed in open houses, and parent conferences and those sorts of things. And then the last tier is tier 3, which is advanced interpretation skills in school settings. And tier 3 is really anything with a legal context. So IEP meetings, 504 meetings. So we offered the tier 1 and tier 2 training to all of our local interpreters that we typically use in MERST. So we've had a few of them already make it through tier 2, and we received their certificates recently. So that's very exciting. We're looking into tier 3 training. Our ultimate goal is to be able to use our local interpreters to access training in order to support our community building and interpreter model. And I also want to say, when we don't have the appropriately trained interpreters, we have been hiring contract interpreters to fill in kind of the spots that we need. But we do prefer to use local interpreters, and our families prefer using local interpreters.
And I think that's one of the reasons, we wanted to keep why our families are very appreciative of the supports is that, they're able to make connections with these community interpreters. Many districts just kind of like outsource this to a company, and that's fine when, you can do that, but to have real relationships there, I think is meaningful.
Absolutely. All right, I'm also going to talk about our curriculum review. Dr. Kirkpatrick mentioned a little bit about what we had done. So the TFM, ELD, and ELA curriculum review cycles all occurred concurrently. And so it was determined that our curriculum materials, while they were good and we were happy using them, no longer aligned to the 2020 WIGA standards, which is what the state wants us to be aligning to. So we researched different curricula, and we really need to have a focus on WIGA 2020 alignment, but also we wanted multicultural content and some foundational skills for our newcomers as we're getting more students that require more of that foundational work. We reviewed sample units from publishers, and after looking at a few things, we decided that we wanted to stay with REACH because we felt it met our student needs at the elementary level, and we are moving to LIFT for the middle and high. There's still a National Geographic Cengage, beautiful photographs, very multicultural, and we felt that meets our needs. So for the school year of 25-26, we will have updated materials in K through 12. And there's just a couple of the pictures and what we'll be using next year. Right, and then we're going to turn it back over to Dr. Kirkpatrick.
And so you've already heard basically about some of the things that the TFM review observed, and our action steps are as follows. First, we know that we should be coordinating and creating a shared vision of what service provision really the priorities should be, and how we should do that, because we have limited capacity in our 3 EL teachers, and we have needs that have been increasing quite substantially in the last few years. So we'll develop that as a team, as one of our action steps for the beginning of next year. That will kind of be like a tail end to our phase. It will be like phase 2 of the curriculum review process. We'll be reviewing the EL schedules. As we do scheduling work, one of the things that we've noticed across the district is that our schedules don't align across buildings, and that being able to make our schedules more aligned will enable us to be able to address our capacity by having our teachers be able to attend classes in different buildings if that was necessary, in schedules that actually align to each other. We are working towards enabling collaboration with our general ed teachers and the EL teachers, because we truly believe that a lot of the language development happens in context, meaning that it's really important for the EL teachers with their expertise in language development connect with content experts and the people who are delivering the core curriculum to be able to think about the vocabulary and put it into context and actually work more closely together. That's really hard when their schedules are packed with service provision. So we have to be thoughtful about how we enable that collaboration so that we can enable that to happen and benefit from that. And finally, we'll be looking at building our capacity for ELE instruction, which of course includes potentially increasing staff if the needs persist. And also something that we're exploring is helping educators who are interested in pursuing additional licensure to pursue that. So tomorrow I'm hosting a webinar. We've had a few people already express interest. We'll kind of go through some programs that we're aware of that can help people prepare for the MTELs that would enable them to become licensed in ESL.
Is SCI an acronym for?
Structured English immersion. All of our teachers are required in Massachusetts to have an endorsement on their license that said sheltered English immersion is the strategies we use to support English learners in the content area. So it's like what the general education teacher is doing to make the curriculum accessible for an English learner in their own classroom.
It's part of the model that we use in this district as well. So we have to have SEI teachers and licensed ESL teachers. You know, other districts use other types of programs, but ours is an SEI program. Thank you.
Before we kind of wrap up, because I don't know what questions you'll have, can I just pause for a moment and just first say thank you to you guys. I mean, the results that we see from 3 individuals who work very closely with our ELs it's amazing. The relationships that families talk about are in large part because of these people. They're either working behind the scenes to find the translators, they're connecting with teachers to help the teachers understand what the kids' needs are. They're continuously touted as the people who know the kids the best. And it really is an important, a critical part in what helps these students develop and grow. And you do that with just a little bit of time, you know, with in your schedules, and with a collaboration though that I think is just amazing too. So my hats are off to you, and the district's hats are too, I hope.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's kind of brand new for us, you know?
It is.
So we're kind of walking into this with our population doubling since
Yes.
2016, and none of us know these acronyms or what their implications are and
Yes.
what has to be supported. So, you know, please help us.
I remember when I did my student teaching in this district, maybe 15 or 16 years ago now, and there was, I think, maybe 1 English learner in the whole district.
Yeah.
I didn't have one in the class that I was teaching in, and when I was getting my license, they said, just pretend you have one. What would you do? And then I moved to Florida, and my whole class was English learners, and I realized, this is something that needs special attention. And so as the numbers started increasing here, you know, our district's really changing a lot, and it's exciting, but it can be overwhelming. There's lots to learn.
Like what is the biggest implication of making sure you're compliant with SEI training? What's the biggest implication?
You can't renew your license if you don't have SEI endorsement as a teacher.
Yeah, the state requires.
Yeah, but for students, the biggest implication is that our teachers know strategies
Right.
that help them address the diverse needs of the kids in front of them. And it's not just English learners either. SEI training is really good, inclusive training and inclusive practices for all kids.
Yeah, I'm just reading notes on, this might be wrong, I don't know, but it's saying like placed in a classroom setting with non-ELL students.
Yes, it's like an inclusive setting. Our students are in a general education setting. The general education teacher has training in how to modify, adjust,
Make the content.
accessible.
Students.
So for example, if like let's say we're doing like writing a personal narrative in 4th grade right now. They're all writing personal narratives. I have a newcomer English learner. She can't write all that. So we made a picture book. We drew pictures of her personal narrative, and then she said it in Spanish, and I helped her write simple sentences in English. And that's like just one way that teachers can sort of change what they're doing just a little bit so that students can learn alongside their peers. And research shows that this actually improves our language proficiency by being immersed and hearing it and seeing it all around us.
And I can add to when some of the laws changed in Massachusetts and this became a requirement for licensure, all of the administrators are required to. So I had to go through the training because I haven't had that in my earlier training. And any of our new teachers coming on board, at least from Massachusetts, have that endorsement. One thing that I know we've talked about is the need to keep bringing in PD because it's been a while, right? You know, I wasn't trained, or some of us weren't trained last year. We were trained 6 years or 7 years ago. And
And it can have been a while.
Right.
You may not have had an English learner in your class since
Exactly.
you got that
so it's
endorsement.
bringing in this additional, and that's why when you have them in a building and not traveling all over, they become this additional resource as staff here too. That is that ongoing PD on top of like offering, you know, PD sessions for staff with work, which they do for new teachers, et cetera. And we're really appreciative of that.
Yeah, it was interesting too, just as an aside, when we had our review, our reviewer basically said, gave us the preliminary results as Debbie shared. And she said to us as she was giving them to us, she's like, you guys, this is great. I haven't passed anyone in any of these standards all year, right? And then we looked at the stuff and actually we have everyone SEI endorsed. Their records were wrong. And so we pushed that back and I said, okay, we'll take, so we might be the first ones to pass that. I don't know if what she was saying was right, but same thing with the curriculum. We kind of like did the tweaks and I said, oh yeah, that's great.
Well, I have dozens of questions, but.
We can get coffee later.
Right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think that was mine.
Yep.
You want that? So this is where I want to go out with you, but I think I'm next. So I will bring coffee to you sometime.
Okay, sounds good.
So this next, the next part of our agenda actually is an interesting, and I think real positive things. We're not going to have a presentation from Lauren and Ryan tonight for their math curriculum. And here's why. We were talking about it and kind of going through it. And we realized that some of the work they've done needed to, like, that we would benefit from researching a little bit more. And so the conversation I feel like was real healthy. And we made a plan basically to be able to take the recommendations that the team was looking at and make a plan for effectively looking to see how the resources met the standards and priorities that we had outlined. So what we decided to do is we're going to do a bit of a field test, actually. The departments themselves are not lacking resources. We're going to make sure that they have resources and that those resources for Algebra 1 will be aligned next year anyways. And next year we'll be doing a pilot of probably 2 different resources so that we can, instead of bringing them here tonight and sharing that with you themselves, I said, why don't you guys wait so you don't have to come to two school committee meetings. Let me share this with the committee and we'll bring you back in the fall. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do.
So Ryan let a little bit of stuff, cat out of the bag at graduation.
Oh, great.
So he said Algebra 1 was going to contain some more experimental ideas, but contain a little bit of data science as part of the curriculum.
Well, actually, so now I'm making the connection. So you're saying Ryan Robid
Oh, I'm sorry.
was talking
Wrong
about
Ryan.
that. I was talking about Ryan LeVar, who's the
Sorry.
department chair at the middle school for math.
Okay.
But to what you're saying, yes, indeed. And he was talking about Algebra 2, not Algebra 1. But any math, right, we're working towards embedding data science because we recognize that that is useful and a utility that we can learn in lots of different places. So not just in math, but there's an opportunity that he availed to the Algebra 2 teachers over the summer for thinking about how to embed this in their Algebra 2 curriculum. And that's a plan that they're eager to do. So that's kind of like separate than like the curriculum resources, but yes, good news as well. So thank you.
Pretty happy with that. But sorry.
Not at all.
Thought it was on.
All right. Any other questions? No, I'll let them take it away in the fall.
Okay.
All right. Super. Thanks.
No,
Alright, now, you could pull up the presentation again. It's that time of year that you get to hear about the end of year updates related to the strategic priorities. I know you've been, I know,
I move to adjourn.
I know you've been hearing about it all year long, which is, of course, that's our goal, right? We want to make sure it's upfront. This is what we're working on. This is our progress. But what I did here is kind of twofold, and you can keep this slide for a second, but I did the same kind of model that I did last year. And when I met with the leadership team, I asked them to give me kind of what's the one big thing, like what stands out? What would you want to highlight? So I have a lot of text kind of in a format on all of these slides. I'm not going to read through all that text, but I wanted to be able to have it all there. That way I can publish this out on the website and we have kind of the end of the year sort of highlights if people want to go deep and learn more. What I'm going to go through is just give a couple aspects from each of them. There are a couple you haven't heard about, some you have. So I'll try to go through as quickly as I can. But you have the tracking document. We create this document at the beginning of the school year. And as I've talked about, we go through and add our progress notes. We talk about our progress. Sometimes we say, I don't know what we were thinking in the summer, thinking we were going to do this, or mid-year where this is going to move to another time, and other things were on track, and we adjust as we go. But we put some notes in there, kind of put, I know some of you like the green, yellow, red, kind of put that, our best guess. And some of them aren't ever really complete because they're always ongoing as part of our larger strategic plan. But what I'm going to do is just give a few highlights in the presentation and try to go as quickly as I can. On that one slide, Sam, does it play the video? If you've never seen it walk, I took this coming through and the high fives, and I know for those that were at graduation, I talked about and gave references of like what the kids were saying, and I have a couple images. They were holding signs, Nipmuc rocks, they're going Nipmuc rocks, like that. But they were so excited, and just kind of want to start with that because when we have the journey through our district, that's what it's all about. All right, if you go to the next slide. I always like to begin as a reminder to one of our theory of action of creating a collaborative school culture. We want to know, value, support, and empower each learner. We're looking to provide engaging, meaningful, authentic learning experiences. That's why we talk about it all the time. And the goal is to unleash the potential of all of our students. And we really do believe this and try to bring that into our conversations. In the images there, I had some of our buff students kind of giving their presentation here. And then we have a graduate talking about the portrait of a learner profile and like the MLRs at the end of the school journey. We have the 4 strategic priorities. You should be aware of them, so I'll keep going. But they're there for everybody else. So the first grouping is the deeper learning. Just as a reminder, a big focus has been related to deeper learning framework development. All right, next slide. All right, so one of the highlights, the first thing that our elementary, I don't know, is Wendy still here? Oh yeah, nice. Wendy's back there, that's awesome. The first thing they put in here, they were talking about the Project Lead the Way launch experiences for our elementary students. Some elements I want to point out. I think it's important if people read this after why this matters. And sometimes we kind of skip to like outcomes and what we're doing, but I'm not going to talk about the why it matters, but I think it's great on these slides. I'm going to point out some of the numbers in the cases. We've had 100% of our classroom teachers trained in Project Lead the Way. 100% of our students participated in more than one Project Lead the Way module. What's next? We're increasing student participation next year to more than 2 modules, which is a lot. And there's going to be a lot of intensive training and work that goes into that over the summer into next year. They're going to be looking to align math ELA standards with those modules. That's kind of the only way you'd be able to fit all of the time into the modules in. And we're hoping that we can increase the showcases of learning. We've talked about the showcases before in the 1H showcase, but you have some sample, image there of what the showcases look like. You've seen a lot on the end of like the high school and civic action projects and symposium. we're trying to build these experiences throughout all of our, pre-K to 12 experiences as much as we can. So we're really excited. What's nice is we could go back. We went back a year ago, and I won't talk this much every slide, I swear. But if we go back a year ago, we can see one of the slides is related to Project Lead the Way. And what the one big thing is, like how many people we were going to train and what our goals for this year. So it's been nice to see this growing development in this area. Next slide. Also elementary school level. Way, one back. There we go. We had a focus with the deeper learning framework. One element is around reflection. We've been doing a lot of focus on reflection at the elementary school level. We've done this in a few ways. One by the numbers, 100% of our fourth grade students across the district established learning portfolios. They used these portfolios when they conducted their student-led conferences in the late fall, and they continue to add to those portfolios throughout the year, reflecting on their goals and their work and setting goals for themselves. That was like a pilot year for us. We're bringing it in. So you have it actually hits a couple of our goals of communicating more around curriculum to our families, and we're including our students. It's increasing student agency, which is one of the elements of our deeper learning framework. And reflection, also another element in some of the aspects of our deeper learning framework. So what are we hoping to do next? Also we had 100% of students reflecting on both inspired learning days. That had always been our initial place that we started to reflections, also specifically related to our portrait of a learner competencies. But we don't want that to be the only time we're connecting to portrait of a learner competencies. It's just on inspired learning days, right? Twice a year. So what's next? It's to add student portfolios and have more opportunities for reflecting across elementary grades, perhaps expanding down student-led conferences, maybe into the third grade. And we're hoping with the start of these portfolios that we're going to start building now heading into fifth grade. And our goal, working with Ryan, we let them do that. It had nothing to do with it. It was all them, but they had them try out different types of portfolios. We're going to be looking to see what would be the best type of portfolio, either at the elementary and then into middle and then secondary, because we're heading into mastery learning records and we're putting some of our best work in there. How do we kind of bridge that gap across the whole district? So we're still in that process, but we've made a lot of progress there. All right, next slide. We have a lot under deeper learning. The collaborative student discourse at MISCO, we talked about the important partnership that we have with the 1-8 Foundation and specifically with the Ally Network, that we have the middle schools in year 1, the high schools in year 2. The middle school work was around discourse. I've talked about it a number of times. We brought it up this year just as a reminder. They had the different discourse cards. They piloted it, and so you have an example there piloting, talking about, and this is underneath like collaboration as part of the elements of the deeper learning framework. We have a plan to continue on with the network next year, which will continue to grow and essentially operationalize some of these tools. What 1-8 is trying to do, which I think we talked about at one of the meetings, is expand it. It's not just for our district, that once we have something that we know, a proof of concept, that it'll be shared, and then we'll also be able to get tools from other districts. Some other districts are working on this as well. And the goal for next few years, obviously we have a new principal coming on board, and we'll be, talking. I'm going to introduce her when she comes forward in August. We'll do it then at one of those first meetings, but we'll be getting her involved with Ally, and then we'll come up with a plan of how we're going to expand this out a little bit more. Keep going. Junior internships. John sort of did this for me, but that's okay. What we were excited about, and we do have the showcase, or is it called a showcase, but when they're gonna talk about the program. I went to it last year, it was great. We had 60 students that applied this year. We ended up accepting 40, which we had 20 last year. So we had a huge increase. Our goal is to try to figure out how do we build capacity to have, it gets to a point where I think Mr. Clemens said this, or Ms. Moran, gets to a point when you have so many juniors involved, then why not have all the juniors or most that would want to be involved, right? Because it does, there's some things happening, it's impacting, the class, the amount of students. But we're kind of doing this slow rollout, like let's try 20, let's build capacity 40, let's improve it, let's get feedback. But we would imagine the ability to keep growing it. That's part of the goal. So we want to expand it in the future and have it available for more juniors. Questions? I'm gonna pause. Keep going. All right. Authentic learning protocol at Nipmuc. Huge highlight for them. It was used throughout the year. I don't need to tell you much about it. Hopefully we don't have new community members. Hopefully ones have been just watching this and they know that this is something we've been doing, but we're hoping to expand the protocol beyond Nipmuc to be able to be used. We did do some piloting and trying it out at some of the schools, but not in a systematic way. We're also had the development of one at Memorial around student agency. We'll see if we can kind of operationalize that kind of protocol and then do more with the discourse, something that we can spread across, and that will be continued work next year and probably the year after. This is something that's going to take a number of years. The early college programming, we haven't really talked about this. In a way, it's almost a next year. It was in this year's strategic plan, but it's really going to be almost a next year implementation, although we're at the start of it, where we established a partnership with Quinn-Sigmund Community College. Students will be able to take college level courses as part of the high school program of studies. We're starting with business law and ethics, and then introduction to psychology. Those are the two that we're going to be trying out. I can say from personal experience, the district I live in, and my son's a junior, he took 2 Quinn-Sig early college classes this year. Really liked them. You get the same credit, like for weighted credits in college as AP classes. Gave a little bit more flexibility with time. I felt like help the maturity of like managing like a college course, which is so different. And then next year you signed up for 3, so that's in my district and doing different things. So business law was one of the ones that he did. But we're, going to see there are sometimes obstacles in rolling out new types of programs like this. So we're starting small, but I'm personally really excited. It's been kind of on the list for a while. It's something in our overarching strategic plan to bring in, and it has potential of giving lots of different opportunities for students.
I have a question.
Yeah.
We haven't looked at enrollment numbers in a while, but the population of the school seems to be stable or decreasing, maybe to increase in the future. I think that's how I would characterize it. Simplifying it, I know, but with that understood, are there any plans to remove or eliminate, because the population of the students might not be there to support having a class available? So I think I heard something like there's a possibility that we would have to do something with calculus, for instance. And I'm not sure what is happening there at all.
I don't know any
options.
I don't know anything about that, but I know we're being very strategic right now that these are electives. So imagine I'm going to take this, business is pretty oversubscribed, some history classes are oversubscribed. We're offering things that we don't currently have.
Yeah.
So it's just giving options for students,
Right.
but not making it in a way that we're going to need to lose staff or it would impact staff, right? It just gives options, different options for students. That's the electives. That's where we're at right now. The way it is just at my son's school, they have an English class that they have. So either students are taking like the AP, Lang, or they're taking this Quinn-Sig course, like for kind of the upper level. And it's just, they're different. They're really different kind of courses that get same credit. They had so many at that school that they actually have one of our English teachers at that school is teaching one of the Quinn-Sig classes. So that, they're covering a class because there was so much like enrollment from that school. So there's lots of different possibilities, but we're starting super small because we don't want it to negatively impact manageable for what we have right now, but it offers potential. I've really seen success for my son in the sense of flexibility. Like I like that. I think it's been healthy for him.
So
But it's not for everybody. But
similar to like the virtual high school classes that we've offered here,
yeah,
sort of the asynchronous that you would access during.
yeah. That's how it has been. You know, I don't know if you've heard anything
Yeah,
about it, what they said to you.
I actually took VHS
Yeah.
this past year. Yeah, so I liked it because it gave a lot of flexibility. Like I could work on other classes during the class period, but work on it over the weekend. But I like this because unlike AP classes, it's like the credit is guaranteed. You don't need to pass an exam to get the credit. This sort of makes it so like the credit, you're just gonna get it once you go to college. You don't have to get a 4 or 5 on the exam.
Yeah, that's
to
a
get
really, I didn't even talk about the credit aspect that you carry those credits. So if you're going to state schools in Massachusetts, which many students do, you know, it's gonna count for credits or someone potentially for some of the courses. Yeah, that can help kids out.
Is there a fee associated with enrolling in this?
Yes,
Yes.
but I don't have the answer on what we're doing with that here. Honestly, I probably should have, I thought of that. I didn't think of that. I know that as a parent, in the other system, we pay a fee for him to do it. But I don't know what the plan is, or if it sometimes there might be. I can find out that info. I'll ask him.
So,
like, if there
so
was
as
a
far
plan.
as you know, nobody is saying we're not gonna offer this next year. As far as the classes in high school are concerned, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I have to be more specific. Maybe I'll ask you specific questions later.
okay.
Because I'm just hearing from the public that they can't get into certain, they can't get their kid in certain.
Oh, so maybe scheduling thing, not being able to get into certain
It could
classes.
be, I don't know. I really don't know.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. High quality, so that was deeper learning, some highlights. Is that good? All right, I'll keep going. So high quality curriculum instruction. We're gonna go to the next slide. Early literacy and writing development. We purposely highlighted a lot about this. We saw a great presentation just either a couple of last meeting before that we had. By the numbers, we've had 100% of our kindergarten and first grade teachers participate in PD from the Well Collaborative. We have 100% of classroom teachers and special educators pre-K to 4 participated in the PD around science of reading. I actually attended one of the trainings just because I was hearing such good things. I wanted to see what they were learning. She was phenomenal. They loved her. We hope to some of the next steps that we're going to be doing. Well, bottom line, like our teachers are receiving these strategies in writing instruction through the collaborative, and we've really focusing on writing the last couple of years. That came out of data and need to work on that. We've been really working on that. Next year, you heard about our ELA, group and the review. We're going to be piloting some ELA curriculum materials, learning about science reading and learning about these skills helped us also with reviewing some of the materials. And we're hoping to expand into the speaking and listening standards as well, because we've been pretty heavily focused right now on some of the writing standards, some of our work and curriculum. The next slide, you've definitely heard a lot about with the curriculum review cycle, because you just saw one presentation on EL. You had Megan Pike gave us a highlight earlier in the year on our SI work, and you had the ELA presentation, but just kind of wanted to put it. It was such a massive undertaking. I couldn't not have that in the presentation to highlight all the great work. And I want to thank Dr. Kirkpatrick for her leadership in coordinating multiple committees and teams to work through all of this. It's a lot. Next steps will be field testing, like I just said, the ELA materials, SI materials, and looking at the service provision that we talked about around staffing in our English language students. We completed the tiered focus monitoring, and it is something to come out of those without findings. That's incredible work, or to have it be just something slight that or maybe a little bit out of our control, like with staffing budgetarily, like we have things to work on, but that's a lot of hard work that's gone into that. Next one, we had Cheryl led the secondary department chair, PLC. PLC is professional learning communities. groups working together. What's been really nice, you can see a lot of these pictures are happening in this room. You bring together the departments to collaborate. There isn't a lot of time in a year for you to have cross-school collaboration. We just have a few full-day PD sessions, and then you have more school-based sessions. And when do you bring them together? And in bringing them together, one thing they've talked about was vertical alignment or some misalignment that might be happening with curriculum. By the numbers, we had work on transfer goals, 10 departments submitted unified transfer goals, and that's in addition into their curriculum guides that, for those who've been here a long time, when I would come forward and talk about curriculum mapping and some of this, like we just keep making them better or revising them as we go, and transfer goals was something that I didn't incorporate in. We were doing that. We were just in the beginning stages. So that's adding on, and that leads to deeper learning. Bottom line, we really do rely on our department chairs to lead curriculum development, data review. They're really important to that, our leadership structure. We're hoping to move from the stage one. There are 3 stages in curriculum mapping. Stage 1 is, what do we want and hope our students are going to be able to learn and be able to do. Once you have that, then you move into stage 2. Stage 2 is around how do we know that they learned it? That's assessment. And then eventually you get to stage 3, and that's the instructional strategies that we're providing and sharing and resources. So that's, they've done some great work with that. Next slide. Instructional partners. Definitely heard a lot about that. We've had a commitment to that. It's been grant funded. We're looking for ways with a mixture of grant funding and in the budget to try to be able to continue this next year. So we're still working hard on that in order to, because they've been adding to our instructional leadership teams at all of our schools and building capacity and leadership around teaching and learning and supporting colleagues. Because when you look at a typical district will have assistant superintendent and then coordinator, K-6 for ELA, and then have a coordinator for 6 to 12 in math, and then you'd have a STEM coordinator, and you would have as full-time leadership jobs, right? What you also would have in typical districts that have a little bit more funding, you would have coaches, instructional coaches that are then able to go in and work with teachers and work with them and support them. And we have one instructional coach. So what we've been doing with the instructional partners model is just trying to expand capacity. They're still full-time teachers, but it's been nice because it's like colleague to colleague and supporting the work. And it also builds a larger instructional leadership team for our principals as well to move a lot of this forward. So it will be continuing to support school teams, looking at evaluating instructional impact of the work that we're doing. That's some of the next steps that we'll have. We've had 11 instructional partners this year. 4 school-based projects that they designed and delivered. And then when we talk about these protocols, like that student agency protocol that came out of Memorial, that was instructional partners. And that's something that they worked on and created and led their teachers. All right. And that's all there. Questions on that? Had it backwards with my here. Those were supposed to be in front of everything, but I didn't put them in front. But that was, we can keep going. All right. Equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. It's our 3rd goal area. You can go to the next slide. Which I put in the right spot there. I've talked about a lot of this throughout the year, so I'm going to just go into a few highlights that you might not have really heard about. One highlight this year, and Cheryl led this with the 504 coordinators. We have, I think there's some data in here that maybe you might not know, so I want to kind of point out. Each school has at least one 504 coordinator. They oversee the eligibility process and communication with families. Some, it might be split in a school, so it's different for each school. By the numbers, we have 171 students on 504 plans, and that's coordinated by 9 educators. This team worked together, received a ton of training because we had some new folks on the team this year, and we brought in a lot of legal training throughout the year and then check-ins. They developed this 504 plan handbook that then can be revised, brought forward, and if we had any changeover in any 504 coordinators, then we have resources for that. Now what's next? They're going to practice facilitating meetings when you might have a situation where a team might not agree, try to work on common language, that we'd have common language across the district, because what we've learned in these common meetings is you might have a 504 plan that's created at the elementary, but when you go to the middle school or go from middle to high school in particular is where it happens a lot. It doesn't really match like what was, or middle school doesn't quite match what the needs are in the high school. So how do we have common language and have a clear understanding for articulation across the district? Right, next one. A lot of text on this, but you know about this, but I asked all of the schools give feedback related to the whole student reviews that they've been doing. 100% of the class of 2027 now have student success plans. And as part of their process, they decided to start with that class, and then every year they're going to keep building upon that every year. At Memorial, 100% of K1 and 2 completed the child reviews, and 100% of all teams use the categories to help with class placement. I was able to jump in and observe part of that placement at Memorial and saw kind of how they were using that, which was awesome. At Clough, 100% of K4 completed the whole child reviews, and at MISCO, what they did a model and they used it at some student support team meetings. What we haven't done is rolled it out like grade by grade across the middle school. The way we were able to do it at the high school, it was like on a PD day and took like this giant chunk of time to do it. When you have, it's a lot easier to, it's still, you know, there are a lot of conversations take place, a little easier to do it at the elementary, small teams. You know, you just have your set amount of students, but when we're getting to like our larger groups, we have to structure in a way that how do you get that? But once we have it, we're looking to develop a plan for next year where we're going to be expanding it so then we are building it. And also we showed you with OA, like the open architects, how they have a new system that we might be able to integrate even better, more so than we have, which then it'll make things a lot easier for getting to know our students and fully knowing them, supporting them. So we're making a lot of progress, but as you know, change takes 3 to 5 years, sometimes 5 to 7, right? With large organizations, but it's true. It's true. Big change.
Slightly fast in different areas of the.
Well, some change is fast, right? But some things, if you have systemic change across impacting all the students, all the schools, and to have like a whole new system coming in, like we're making from where we were when we had nothing to where we are
Let's
now,
put it
like
this way.
100%. I'm excited.
I've been in school committee for 8 years. A lot of changes occurred.
I guess that's a good thing.
It is a good
That's
thing.
a good
I'm
thing.
not trying to be nasty.
No, I know. And some things happen too fast, right? And we might go a little too fast. Oh, okay, going too fast, slow down. Next slide is the equity pause introduced. I don't need to really, we have emphasized this. We're hoping to expand this next in other areas throughout our work, collaboration, and talking about curriculum and programming. This is new. You haven't heard about this. I don't think that they talked about this. We're having a launch day here at NetMuck, where launching relationships and belonging with the incoming 8th graders. We used to have something in the fall. Now we're doing this launch day in the spring. Oh, this is exciting. All right. Well, we're a JED high school, works a lot about mental health and building relationships. So that's exciting. We get a lot of external support from them. We're also looking to use what's called school links. We're moving away from Naviance to school links, where we have lots of strength surveys that we can incorporate. So what they're planning to do, bottom line, 15 NITMUC sophomores and juniors will work as NITMUC ambassadors. They're going to have small groups of incoming freshmen, about 4 or so per group. They're going to be running a Portrait of a Learner design challenge, providing tours of the buildings, conducting small group interviews to learn about their interests. Then in the summer, those student ambassadors are going to send like handwritten invitations to those students, inviting them to the clubs and activities. Let's say like, hey, like, heard about, DECA, like, would you be interested in this? And you'd send a little note personalized from an upperclassman to the incoming. And what's next? Like continued planning. This is the first time they're doing it. It's happening on June 10th. We're hoping then once we start to get personal data into OA, then we'll be able to help support our students even more. And we're hoping to move the club fair like closer to the first days of school where we can get kids engaged a little bit more. But they've been really strategic about this, and we're excited about the change. They made a lot of changes with like culture building coming from this kind of month, which is great. So that's breaking news. All right, community support. Keep going, keep going. All right, capital plan. I don't know if you know.
We may see this one.
I didn't finish my bottom line. I was gonna take that out. I won't show.
How long a bit?
You can update that, hit refresh. But by the numbers, 38 presentations, voters pass overwhelmingly. Jay did this, 88% support a ballot, 98% at town meeting, I guess. We will, I don't know if that was Jay's number, so I don't know. We'll have them check it. What's next? Schematic designs. We have some calls where we're gonna need to be meeting regularly just to have the next steps. Jay, are you back here?
I'm behind you.
Do you want to give any next steps? Like just any recent
We
updates?
have more to do. I thought we did. Thought we were done.
We have a few things like Jess, you
Yes.
just told me like today.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
meeting with the architect. We got to get a contract. We're gonna set up weekly meetings with the OPM. The architects want to come out and do a site visit here. We've got Beals and Thomas are looking at field projects. I'm meeting with the about the energy management systems over the course of the week. I met with National Grid today about the transformer, because they do agree that the 1958 version might be a better version out there for us. All those things are sort of in the works, but we're juggling lots of little balls in the air right now.
But a lot was just happening in the last couple of days, like communication. So thank you, Jay, for that.
Is there a deadline with NSBA that we had to meet or something? Not anything in particular. We had to send them in like certified votes and all that stuff. And that was all sent in right after the votes. They basically said, we'll let you know after we look at it all. The only thing I've learned from MSBA is the architect contract. We also have no say in the language in that either. So we're not going to bother to have a lawyer read it because it doesn't matter because you can't change it anyway.
Cool. And keep going. Last slide, or second to last slide. Develop partnerships.
Really?
Develop partnerships to create a pipeline for teachers. We haven't really talked about this too much, but we said this is one of our steps. We sent letters to 15 area universities. We've met with a couple, and we're hoping to create relationships where we can have student teachers and interns. And that was one of our goals, and we're able to start making some contacts. We're excited about that. And then on the horizon, next slide, I started to run out of room. I just started listing everything that I feel we've been talking about. So I'll go fast. AI teaching and learning cohort. Ryan is we're going to continue to work with AI and development and supporting policies and guidelines and usage and all good stuff. Capital project planning and implementation, we know. We are going to be looking to switch to a new staff attendance tracking system. Stay tuned. There's a lot of work that Lori and Jay will have to be doing for that. Right now we use like Google Forms. People submit, then it's printed forms, and we all sign off, and then it gets like sent email back to them, and then it's not the most efficient system. And then when that happens in PowerSchool, we put the data, and it's like manually put in. With our budget system and software, they've been getting trained. We'll be able to do it, and then we'll have like a system. But there'll be a learning curve, but we're going to be working on that. Multi-factor authentication that was in our goals this year. We're still working on it. For timing, we think the best thing for us to do at this point, because it was in the spring, is not to roll it out suddenly right now. That to do it at the beginning of the year where we have everyone and we're able to communicate and work. That's kind of like shifting just at the start of the year. I already talked about OA. We are switching from IXL to iReady personalized learning. Ryan and Colleen the year before and Dave the year before, we've done a lot of analyses on our software systems and we're reducing in some in order to use some that might be more efficient and effective. Talked about that. ELA, science curriculum review, phase 1 self-studies next year. We have a cybersecurity incident plan, like a full draft. Joe Lakeview just went to some training and their review of the draft and got some feedback. What we need to do is run through a few more scenarios and make a couple changes and then start implementing some things just internally, just for tracking and monitoring for next year. We are in the middle of scheduling committee. We've had 2 years of work on scheduling committees at each of the buildings. At the secondary level, we have a team that's getting DESE support on scheduling and training, and we're looking to have more, it's not like a full reset, but we are continuing that work into next year. I talked about whole child review expansion and expansion of student reflection. We implemented some SEL curriculum this year at the middle school. We'll be looking to expand that some more, as well as expansion of master learning, college programming, and internship, which I mentioned. And then I already talked about deeper learning, and I just stopped because there's more. But we put this all together, continue with the next steps, but we made a lot of progress. And then you're going to quickly go through the cute pictures. This is the Netlock Rocks. We're going to leave on a high note here, keep going. This is the symposium, the amount of people that were there. This was the showcasing for 1A at Memorial before some went off. Next one, we have like the cardboard play day at Clough. You have science labs. Next one, the most adorable music class that I walked into. Next one was at the middle school with their project. Next one, highlight with the commissioner. That was an amazing day for us. Next one, you have the beautiful art for the art show. We had a performance that we had here. Next one, you haven't seen this one. We actually, some got cut off. I feel bad. This is a multicultural night. It's like all of our Spanish immersion teachers and staff. And the next one you haven't seen yet, that's from Best Buddies when they did the friendship walk. And then finally, it was really cool at NetMuck. They had Portrait of a Learner awards that they gave. And so you had those that were nominated and received awards for the different competencies. And that was it. And that ends. All right. I know it's a lot, but it's fun. It's good stuff. That's what we're all doing.
I think you probably, I mean, it feels good that there's a lot of green status in this. Yeah, and there's only a few red and a couple of yellow, so it feels like you accomplished a lot.
Yeah, no, we feel pretty good. I mean, we have debates. Is it green? Is it yellow? Is it yellow? Is it red? Well, we did that. We did it here, but not there. I mean, we have those kind of conversations. So it kind of gives you a little bit.
What are the look fors? It's off of the
that we didn't do?
Learning.
Yeah. Originally, when we had our first draft of it, we had the elements, like the definition of deeper learning, then we had the elements, and then below it, we created a list of look fors, which would be, if we were going in classrooms, if you had student agency, this is what it would look like.
Interesting.
And then we were going to go and look and practice and do that.
That's exactly what I was talking about last time. That's exactly the same.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you're focused on the look fors. That's really cool.
Yeah. So we paused on that
Mhm.
because we found that it was taking longer to kind of get people to understand the elements and to roll that out. So we put a pause on that being like a major focus. And then, but next year,
Yeah, it's not so easy.
Next year, it's like not even so much a look for us, it's like next year, what are the instructional moves that we could give to teachers and work with teachers and have them continue to develop? And then how would we know if they're doing it?
Good.
You know, so it's almost like a couple year project for rolling out, but Any other questions on any of it? Comments?
More of a comment,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
think
sorry, yeah.
like we've been so focused on capital plan, but looking at the on the horizon page, and just getting excited about the college programming and the internship expansion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, we've been so focused, or at least I've been so focused on
Yeah.
that stuff that you're gonna forget that there's all this curriculum stuff also
Yeah.
going on.
Right,
I know you said change takes 3 to 5 years, but
yeah,
getting all of that in motion on top of all of the capital plan stuff is great.
yeah. And I mean, it's the team, right? You know, it's like, that's John and Marianne and Tara Bennett and like groups of teachers and thinking through, and then community partners, and, you know, if we're talking about like the internship growth, right, in the last couple of years and what we plan, or, you know, is Wendy still back here? No. So like, but you know, you have the principals leading the work with their teams, instructional leadership teams, you know, it's, then we come back together, you know,
You-
try to
you can
see
see that
progress together, but
It's
then
not
it's back,
just,
yeah.
it's not just here.
Yeah.
That at least I'm seeing progress when we go to the school council and they're actually taking these projects and trying to implement them.
Yeah.
And you can see it happening, so I really appreciate that.
And I just observed, and I probably could have put it in there, but there was a PBL training, project-based learning training that was provided through like our Blackstone Valley Ed Foundation. And that was at the middle school. And Ryan Robidoux and I went in and we're like, oh, it's going on, let's go check it out. And I talked to all the teachers of what they were working on. And it was so great because some were teachers that had done some PBL units before. Well, you had this whole cohort of new teachers trying a new PBL project, ones that I hadn't heard about yet. I'm like, you gotta invite me in, you gotta let me know, like, so we can highlight it and share about it. But they were saying, yeah, well, I'm thinking of doing that, and they were leveling it up as we try to do for those projects. And hopefully we'll be able to highlight some of that next year for you. So thank you for that.
School committee subcommittees, no updates, but we'll look to schedule a building subcommittee meeting at some point. soon.
Yes.
Other matters not anticipated by the committee within 48 hours, there are none. No future agenda items. Executive session, motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of section 3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining. Litigation. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on bargaining or litigating position of the public body, chair declares. The committee will only return to open session for service of roll call.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Jim Forkey, aye.
Bye.
Very much.
That we go to executive session.